Welcome to Big Blend Radio with your hosts, Lisa and Nancy, editors of BigBlendMagazine.com.
Hey everybody, welcome to Big Blend Radio's Eat, Drink, and Be Merry show with Nancy and Lisa, publishers of Big Blend magazines and full-time travelers on the Love Your Parks tour. So every first Saturday, we welcome back travel writer Linda Kissam. Not only is she a travel writer, she is a boater. She's on her boat today. She is known as the food, wine, and shopping diva. So every first Saturday, she's on the show, and she loves to bring guests on our show, which we love. And today she's bringing two special guests to talk about their absolutely beautiful and useful cookbooks. You know, there's cookbooks where, you know, it's like, oh, these are really pretty. And you buy like the cookbook because it's got beautiful pictures and it's got some inspiration. But both of these books have the beauty, the inspiration, but actual how-tos and whys. So really informative and fantastic. So anyway, keep up with Diva Linda and her adventures at allingoodtaste.info. We're going to welcome Carrie Bonfitto on the show. Now, Carrie, did I pronounce this correctly?
You got it, Carrie Bonfitto.
Did I do it right?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So we got to go to your website, everyone. twoheartsnutrition.com is her website, and her book is What to Cook, Why to Eat It. I think this is really cool. So we're going to get into some healthy goodness here. And she makes healthy look colorful, fun, and delicious. And we also have Jessica Formicola. Jessica, did I get your last name right? You guys are taking me on a journey here.
You did.
Oh, good. And you've got the book, Beef It Up. And right now, Nancy and I are in Lubbock, Texas, and I think Texas agrees with you. Beef It Up is 50 mouth-watering recipes for ground beef, steaks, stews, roasts, ribs, and more. And you can go to Jessica's website, savoryexperiments.com. So welcome both of you, and welcome back, Diva Linda. Diva Linda, how's boat life doing?
Well, we haven't gotten out of the slip yet, but I'm assuming everything will be fine once we go. That this is a period of time where we stock up and get new rugs and find out the pumps are gone and all sorts of stuff. So anyway, I know.
Would you like some wine?
Yeah, trust me.
Your pumps are gone? What does that mean, Linda?
Yeah.
And you're taking your slip off? What?
Well, some kind of pump down below, and my husband, some kind of pump. I don't know. Anyway, he ended up in the emergency room is all I can tell you. So
I hope he's okay. Oh, poor Alan.
Well, he wanted this life, so this is all.
Oh, well, there we go. Okay, so now listen, I'm going to go to Carrie. Carrie, you're in LA region, Southern California. Diva Linda, Nancy, and I are all in our home area. And then Jessica, you're in Baltimore region, right? So we're all across the country today. We've got Seattle, we've got Texas, we've got LA, and we've got Baltimore. This is fantastic. And Diva Linda, how did you find out about their cookbooks? And how did you find out about Carrie and Jessica? Because these are really beautiful books.
Well, I'm lucky enough to be part of a media list with Melissa's World Produce.
Oh yeah, we love them.
Once, maybe 7 times a year, they choose books that they think complement what they do. They being Melissa's bringing in worldwide produce, and they bring on they find these cookbooks, they bring on the authors, and we watch a YouTube presentation on their book and who they are, and they do a recipe for us as well. And then as I go along, the ones that really stand out to me, I like to bring on our show. And these two, they're so different. They're complementary but different, and
yes.
So I was really happy to bring these two to everyone, to our readers and our listeners. And I think these are stellar examples of what a contemporary cookbook can be. I read a lot of cookbooks. I review a lot of cookbooks, and not everyone is Big Blend worthy, but these two girls and their wonderful books are. So I'm really looking forward to this conversation.
Yeah, I think the thing that really stood out, and Nancy, you're going through them too, is it's colorful, inspirational, but the informative part is so big. I mean,
It's good.
Jessica, when you look at beef, I think a lot of us get, okay, beef is steak and a hamburger, but you even go into when you buy beef, understanding what part of the cow you're buying from. I mean, this is like stuff you learn at chef school, but for the home cook, and I think about moms, and I think about people starting off cooking, I don't eat a huge amount of meat, but like I'll go in the grocery store and look at all these things of meat. Rump sounds like a butt to me, maybe. And then I'm like, I don't know what I'm looking at. What do I do with this? So I think some of those diagrams and some of the real explanations, so easy to grasp and be able to turn it around. I think that it's fantastic what you've done with the book on that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about, go ahead.
I think also beef has been sort of missing in the newer cookbooks. It's been more about substituting beef with other things. So I'm really glad that somebody was brave and just has a beef book. And congratulations. I think that's
Beef
really
it up.
good.
Well,
Beef
yeah,
it up. I
because
like it.
the substitution of meat in our diets, I get it. So I don't need 1,000 emails about why you should only eat green things. But we're omnivores. We're supposed to take a little bit of a lot of different things to be healthy. We're not supposed to just only eat meat, and we're not supposed to only eat green things unless you have a dietary restriction that your doctor has recommended.
Uh-oh, Carrie, go in there. Go get her. Go get her, Carrie.
Right. So
Uh-oh.
I'm a nutritionist, right? And so I definitely believe what you said, everybody has a different need, right? And not everybody is the same. And a lot of it has to do with our heritage and, what our health currently is. And I have a beef recipe in my book. There's a, I think I call it the ultimate marinara sauce, or not marinara, beef sauce, right? And so it's like a tomato sauce, but it's got ground beef, it's got grass-fed beef. I'm a big believer in, quality meat. The cows should be eating, what they're meant to eat. And healthy animals give us health, right? And so I'm looking at those kinds of things in my book, saying, looking at quality, looking at how things are reacting. I also talk about, like you're saying, how can we cut back maybe on meat, not take it out completely, because I think there's definitely for me personally, health-wise, I need to have that extra iron, and getting it through beef is so important for me. And so just realizing that there's a place for all of this. Like I would love to know what some of your other beef recipes are, Jessica.
Yeah. Because the beef part, this is interesting because it is healthy. It is not a,
it's
a
about
balance.
eating more than one thing. If you only eat meat, you're going to get sick.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I mean, so you have both.
You do. And for me, the bravery with beef right now, I know there's so much controversy with beef. Part of the reason why I became so passionate is because I've made really good friends with a lot of the cattle ranchers. And in the United States, 96% of cattle is farmed and raised by families that are family owned, family run. And a lot of it, the majority of it, is naturally fed. It's actually very expensive to feed them other things and protein packs and vitamin packs from a feed yard. But it also costs a lot of money to be able to label it that. So there's actually a lot of beef out there that's very healthy and has been raised in that way, that just the little family farmer can't afford the organic stamp or the all the stamping that they have to go through to be able to label it that way. But the majority of the beef in the US is actually raised by your local farmer, and I really love that. For me too, when we're looking at it from a sustainability standpoint, from an al naturel standpoint, and just from a humane standpoint, beef is actually raised way more humanely than chicken and pigs. And I believe in a well-balanced diet. I do eat chicken. I do eat pork. I eat a lot of seafood. We aren't over here eating beef every night of the week. We probably eat it once a week. We do a lot of greens and a lot of vegetables. But for like what you said, it was about balance. It's really about balance. But for me, going back and looking at that, and I'm not going to get too into this because I don't want to make it too controversial, but and my publicist will probably want to hurt me if I do, but looking at things like methane and a lot of the other stats that we get, they actually come from other countries. They don't come from the United States. And there are a lot of things that United States farmers are doing to reduce waste, upcycle, and use native grasslands that cannot be farmed for other types of produce to be able to farm these animals. They use mostly rainwater. They upcycle things like the native grasslands in other areas they do farm so that the nutrients can come back before they can plant other things on them. And cows also do eat a lot of corn, and corn and grass together, the corn is a starch. So that actually is helpful in making a good quality piece of beef as well, and gets those, what we look for in prime beef isn't grass fed, it's actually corn fed, because they need the starch, they need the fats, they need the starch, just like we get a little bit more lumpy if we eat more starch. So do cows. So, and they like it, they love it. That's not an unnatural thing for them to eat. Now, processed vitamin packs and all those kinds of things, of course they are, but most people aren't feeding them that. They're not giving them extra additional hormones or anything else because it's expensive, and you wouldn't give it if you don't need it. We don't just sit around taking these things. So I actually feel in my family that feeding my family well and humanely raised beef, it can be better than some other types of protein. And of course, our book also focuses on portion size, as well as adding in a lot of vegetables and color to some traditional beef meals. So we've just taken them and we've elevated them and added in a lot more vegetable, given people a lot of customizations, and they're responding well to it, especially, and we couldn't have planned this, but economically, beef is actually the cheapest protein to buy right now. And if you're buying a good piece of meat, it's only one ingredient. It doesn't have all of these additives and preservatives in it. It's one ingredient, and it's cheaper than a lot of the other proteins. So it's a good choice for families on a budget as well.
It's true, because you're not necessarily, I think, as this country has gotten to this point of meat every single night, and that's not necessarily good for us. I know our heart doctor, Dr. Jackie, will say you can have your beef, but you don't need to have it every day, and I think that's the balance that you bring in, Carrie, with your book is, hey, we should look at seafood, we should look at vegetables, and there are other proteins. For me, I can't get protein from seafood. Nancy and I are both, mother-daughter allergic to fish, seafood, and now tree nuts. Well, that sucks, I'm just going to say. And I'm not going to do all the weird fake soy things. That to me gets a little weird.
Because we went down that road.
And I didn't do very well.
She really didn't.
I tried to be completely vegan at one point just to clean my body, and I did really well until the day I thought, oh, you can buy a frozen patty and you can do those things. And then suddenly my body went like down. Like I didn't.
She started to lose her hair.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, the processed food is really a big problem, right? All of those processed oils, the damaged fats. We just want, I think, to eat things that are whole foods, that are real foods.
Real food, and not manufactured.
Right. And then adding those vegetables becomes so important. So like we know if like you're grilling meat, for example, right, there's carcinogens that happen with the charring. But if you serve it like it's traditionally been served with some coleslaw, right, that cabbage has so many antioxidants that you kind of have like a net neutral meal there. So you're not getting the vitamin C in the cabbage is going to balance out any carcinogens from the way that meat was cooked. And so when we think of things, we're not eating them in isolation. And we look at all of these studies where we're talking about one thing that's specific. But if we look at like, oh, but what happens like if you have, you know, olive oil, like with that meat, that's a good fat with something that's maybe a saturated fat, and will that balance it out? Because we're looking at ratios of, you know, your fats, and that has to be, everything needs to be in balance like that. So I love to play with just creating different flavors out of those really healthy foods and those really common ingredients. Like I don't have anything exotic in my cookbook. Like everything in there is very much like, oh yeah, I've used beets before, or I've used red bell peppers before, or I've had cashews. So, but what happens if you make a cheese out of a cashew, right? And so you can get this really wonderful lemony
yummy
dessert kind of ricotta cheese, and you can pair that with a beautiful persimmon that's like a kind of a cross.
Oh my gosh,
between...
those persimmons in your book are like, I saw that, I'm like, those are so beautiful. Like you don't even want to eat them, they're so beautiful, but you do. You know? You know?
Right, aren't those are from my father-in-law's tree actually.
Oh,
and
wow, cool.
So,
that's so cool. I want to go back to both of you about what got you into the world of food and cooking. Jessica, for you, because I know that you're a brand expert. I mean, you've been doing this for a while now. What got you into the food world?
Oh my goodness. So I am not professionally trained. I am actually a psychotherapist. I worked for many years.
I'm running now before she looks at me any closer.
Don't worry. If I analyzed everybody, I'd lose my own mind. But yeah, I was a psychotherapist for many, many years. And I actually did a lot of work with nutrition and looking at kind of mind, body, and soul and how foods affected people. And one of the things we looked at was processed foods. And you know, a lot of our clients couldn't afford vegan and vegetarian lifestyles and soy, and it's really hard for low socioeconomic class people. So I did a lot with that there, and I actually taught yoga and a bunch of other things with my patients. But I started writing about food on the side. I've always loved to cook. It's very cathartic for me. My husband always knew when I had a bad day, there'd be like a 3-course meal on the table. But I'm not professionally trained.
Next thing you know, he's like, "You're gonna have a bad day every day."
Yeah, just keep going bad. But I would invite friends over because we're transplants. None of our family lives here. So we'd have friends over every Sunday and I'd cook for them, and I'd always try something new. It was a way of teaching myself how to be a better home cook. And they started asking me to write it down. So I did. And I remember coming up from work one day at the hospital being like, 30 people looked at my blog today, 30 people I do not know. And thus it started. I started writing and I started to take it up a notch. And since then I've been writing for major national publications. I do food photography. I do recipe development for national food brands. And Savory Experiments now has 2 sister sites, bestdessertrecipes.com, which is basically for lazy bakers like myself that aren't at home baking like 3-layer cakes. I want to be able to take a box mix and like talking about processed food, but I want to be able to do stuff easily and simply when I do bake, because I'm not a sweets person. I'm much more of a savory person. And my sauce recipes is starting next week because we have a philosophy about 4 S's, which is sauces, swaps, salts, and seasonings to elevate any meal. But that's how I got into it, and it's just kind of naturally happened. And my 10-year anniversary is actually this month, which is super exciting. Yeah. Yeah. So it's been kind of a weird progression, but I think that the fact that I'm relatable and approachable, because I'm not whipping up fancy things. Everything that I do is very easily sourced, but looks at it from the perspective of balance, which is actually very similar. So yeah, it's balance, it's ease.
Now, wait a minute, before we get to Carrie, I want to hear your journey too. Because you're talking about desserts, would you take dark chocolate and put it with beef?
I think that you could figure it out. Off the top of my head, I'm thinking about like a mole sauce kind of a thing with tacos or something like that. Yeah, definitely. I love It's going to sound really weird. One of my favorite late night snacks, like I said, I'm much more of a savory person than a sweet person, is a glass of really dark, dry red wine with a bite of chocolate, an almond, and a bite of sharp white cheddar.
Oh, yeah.
Ooh,
And
Oh, yeah.
I basically just put all three in my hand and pop it and eat it together and then drink my wine. And that's like my
There's-
favorite
see,
snack.
Now that's what I call balance.
well, Ayurveda does that.
I've got
Ayurveda.
protein, I've got
Mhm.
dairy, I've got
That's
chocolate,
right.
I've
You
got
don't
the
have to have all
antioxidants.
those.
And it's heart healthy
That's
because we've
it.
got red wine.
See,
I'm
red
not
wine's good for
arguing.
everything.
Now, one of
But-
the things that I want to talk about a little bit is the photography in both of these books. For me, I need to see what success looks like. So I need, if you're going to give me a recipe, well, let me have a picture so that I know I've hit success or I sort of missed the mark. And both of you have wonderful, wonderful photography and explanations, and both of these books are easy. The recipes are easy and affordable, and whatever the words you want to use. These are two great books. But thank you for including photography. Now I know the cost of making creating a cookbook has gone through the roof. And sometimes how the publishers get the cost down is to not have the photos or only have a photo every so often. But you guys are just really good with what you with your pictures, and really I've made a couple of these recipes from each book, and you know, maybe one or two didn't hit quite the mark that you show here, but it tasted damn good, so that was nice. You know, and I like the way very much that your instructions are easy, and in the fronts of the book you have some more information, and the Carrie's book I liked because no matter, she took on the major problems like diabetes, sugar cravings, and not in a threatening way, and not in a way that would make you put the book down and say, she's preaching to me, I've tried it, I don't like it, I don't want to do it. Instead, it's very interesting the way she approaches this in terms of, well, okay, if you're having cravings, what kind of cravings are you having? So I like that. So it's not like one craving for all. So I think, what kind of craving? And then from there, then she analyzes, well, then this is how you fix it. Now, very cool. I don't have to read 50,000 words to get to the one section that applies to me.
You bad girl,
So-
you're having this craving. You did this wrong.
That's
You
right.
know, I see the
Yeah, so
diva
they-
on the boat making these meals and plating them like in your beautiful books. And then she's walking down while the boats are rocking.
Who's
and
got a
suddenly-
sugar craving? Who wants beef?
Yeah. By the time she puts it on the table, it's not plated like your books.
You know, I'm laughing because it's true.
Yeah, I figure it is.
Yeah, well, especially at the beginning. I mean, I'm a person who loves fresh flowers in whatever atmosphere I'm in. And so I got on the boat and I had big, nice bouquets of flowers in glass containers. Well, what do you think the first time we hit a big wave? Well, it just flew up,
Bye-bye.
crashed down on the wood floor, dented the floor, blah, blah, blah. One learns, but one learns quickly. Anyway, so these books all have recipes that are doable, and especially the instructions. Everybody read the instructions, read the information these ladies have gathered for you. Each book is different, but complementary. And I've given the book to a couple other people, and they all say the same thing: beautiful, informative, not preachy. None of it's preachy.
Yeah,
And
nobody wants to be preached at.
preachy.
No, you know, I
Nobody
wanted to
wants
touch on
preachy.
this with Carrie when you were talking about Carrie's book and not being preachy, but, you know, taking care of like cravings and things. And you've got some like superfood snacks in there, which I'm going to be digging into because we do really long distance driving, and somehow I don't think gummy bears are a good idea. I just sat there thinking she's going to go, no, no, no.
I've never
just-
seen anybody eat as many gummy bears
No,
as Lisa.
don't-
I'm
don't-
like,
no.
you're gonna turn into Peace
I
and
Oh,
really
that's
joy.
turned
funny.
into one. But anyway, I know it's bad, but
Oh,
I think what Linda was saying is really right. And, going back to what I was talking about before, of your journey getting to this cookbook, was it nutrition first, or were you cooking first and then thought, oh, I can do both to help people? What came first, the chicken or the egg?
Well, I've always been cooking my whole life. And just because I'm Italian, it was like my mother was always cooking in the kitchen. My grandmothers were always cooking. I'd go to the house and it's like, okay, you're 5 years old. All right, turn the crank on the pasta machine, right? It's like, I just have been in the kitchen my whole life. But it was kind of, I did have a health crisis where I was just, not feeling well, and I couldn't figure out what was going on. I was having all of these infections and inflammatory things happening, and doctors were just like bouncing me around, and they were like, you're fine. This is in your head that this thing is swollen. And I was like, well, I don't really think that's what's happening. And so I actually ended up going to nutrition school at Bowman College and just learning about nutrition and about how food was impacting my body. But before that, I had gone to culinary school because I had been reading other people's books and saying, oh, well, maybe food is really the answer here. So I went to culinary school because it had been a lifelong goal. And I learned that in culinary school, I learned how to cook, but I didn't learn how to eat. And so I was trying to figure out how to eat to really heal myself. And so I ended up at Bowman College. And learned that. And then I opened my nutrition practice, changed careers out of the entertainment industry. And I was just focusing on healing myself and then also helping other people. And I was able to just change my diet, and I've been a person who's been a home cook my whole life, right? But I needed a little bit more. I needed to know, like, oh, yeah, that you can have more than one vegetable at a meal. Did you know that? You could have a serving of broccoli and a serving of asparagus in the same meal. It's actually, you don't have to just pick one vegetable, right? And that was something in my family, was like, oh, what are we going to have for the vegetable? Right. It's like, oh, you can have
the vegetable.
Oh, the vegetable. That's
Right.
funny.
My husband and I are Italian, and yes. And sometimes the vegetable is just like iceberg lettuce. You're like,
right.
No, that's not a vegetable. That's a water carrier. Like it's a leaf of water. So that's good. At least you got water out of it, right? But is there
Aren't you
any
supposed to
value
have-
to iceberg lettuce? I don't think there's any.
There's
if
hydration. There's a little bit
Water.
of fiber.
it's crunchy.
water and fiber,
But
and it's pretty.
Yeah, and
On a
and then
plate.
you're gonna put some good olive oil on that, so that's that's a good
Blue
Vinegar.
cheese,
Good for your
blue
gut,
cheese, blue cheese and bacon. There goes the
Yum.
nutrition.
Oh,
Uh-oh.
I had to. Sorry.
My grandmother taught me that you should have 5 colors every time you serve a meal, 5 colors. And that somehow takes you around like, okay, now you have vegetable, now you have a fruit, now you have a grain. In order to get 5 colors, you have to mix it up.
Eat the rainbow.
Yes.
That's what I tell my kids.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. Diva Linda, since you've cooked some of the recipes in the book,
Mm-hmm.
how is it that in learning technique? Because that's something I thought with the books too, where they really helped in that. You're getting a lot of useful information. So when you go, like with Carrie's book, and shop for things like, buying beets. I've done the beets thing, and I did it because I thought it would be really cool to have, especially over Halloween. Lisa was in the kitchen. There's beet juice everywhere. It's a nice Halloween picture. But learning to take those kind of ingredients and what you can do with them and the benefits of them. Because sometimes, like one vegetable, you would say, oh, it doesn't have that much. But if you do mix them with something else, everything starts to compound in a good way. So there's that nutritional side. And like with Jessica's book, there's some techniques in there that even learning how to brown meat without, like, now I'm going to cook the whole thing. Like if I'm making a chili, I like to brown the beef, but not overdo it because the seasonings have to still get in later. So for you cooking, how was that part of it beyond like, obviously the meals tasted great and, but what was the technique and the actual information part for you while you were doing it?
Well, I think, let's start with beef it up. I think the section about, you just brought it up about how to grill it correctly and so forth was, I think I tend to take the lazy way. So just, just if you got a pan out, put
She's
your
a
meat in
diva.
it.
She can do what she wants,
And-
everybody.
Yeah, and then turn on the fire. But you know what? It just sort of refined my way of doing things. In the other book, there's a sense of my own sense of, is this going to really taste good? There's some ingredients here that I haven't seen before. And am I going to mix all this stuff up and it's not going to have the flavors that I love or I like associated with a particular dish? And to my great amazement, you can actually make a wonderfully healthy dish with wonderful, healthy ingredients. And as long as I don't announce that this is a healthy dish to whoever I'm feeding it to, it's all good,
That's key. That's key, because as soon as you say healthy, everybody goes, oh, it's going to be bland.
It's going to be bland. And
Yeah.
boy, Carrie's books are anything but bland. And and Jessica's book was recipes are, both of them are easy, and that's the good thing. And both, I'm going to say Carrie's are very colorful because of the ingredients that she uses. Beef is beef, but the presentation still is everything. And for me, it was just a little bit of on both sides, a little bit of refinement on how I prep and how I move through things and how I can combine things. Easy, I could do all of it, and as long as I didn't, one of them was not as great as the other two, because I took shortcuts. I was reading and thought, oh hell, I could do, I could just combine these.
Diva Linda.
Oh yeah, or I don't have to brown it right now, or I do it later or whatever. So, the key to having good meals is to follow the instructions as written, and not feel that you have your own domain of how to do things. That's why you're learning. That's why you're trying these recipes. That's why you're having these books. And I just really, really appreciated all the informative stuff in both books. No preaching. Try it. You'll love it. I guarantee it. They're just wonderful books. Really.
I love it. I love it for us. We travel full time and we've done, Diva Linda knows a lot of tourism stuff. So you're in and out of hotels. And so your food, it's not healthy. Let's put it that way. It's not a healthy lifestyle. And now through COVID, we started pet sitting. And so now you're in homes, and it's not a thing for money. It's everybody, it's through a trusted house sitters, everyone, you're taking care of someone's home and family and their pet family, and they get to travel with peace of mind, and we get to have good internet. So
we get to
most of the time. So,
and
we get to be with animals, but we get to cook, and it's taken some deprogramming for us. Like, you can go to the grocery store and get something. Now we're in Texas, Jessica. So pet parents coming home in a few nights. And every time we get here, she's always had food for us. She's like always cooked dinner for us here, because we're always driving from somewhere like Seattle to Lubbock and, nonstop. And so I told her, okay, well, we're going to make you dinner. And then I went, what the hell did I just say?
I'm looking at her.
I know. No, the other day though, I did it for a couple that we sat for. They just come home from, they went from Portugal to England to here. And I'm like, they've cooked us dinner twice. We're going to have to cook them, we need to cook them dinner so they, cozy when they get home. And I cooked a chicken. And I realized I had not cooked a roast chicken for about 15 years. Like, I went and I'm looking at chicken going, well, why are you better than this one? Like, I totally I wish I had your books, both of you at that time. It could have helped a whole bunch, because now I'm going, oh my God. So now I have this, and it's going to help. And I think, Carrie, for me, traveling, I think is some of the health things that I go through, because I have allergies and all kinds of, I'm just a pain in the butt, but it really does help to have this nutritional
I'm
advice.
not saying
And they both
anything.
go hand in hand. So if I can make a good beef dinner for a Texan woman, I think I'm good. I think
you're
I hope
good.
so. And
I-
all of these, actually, none of them are on the grill. It's another thing that all beef books seem
Right.
to be 100% grill and smoker
Grill.
books. Every single one of these is in the kitchen with no special equipment. It's all skillet and oven, old school ways of doing
I
things.
like
I love a steak.
because I don't know, you don't want me on a barbecue.
No,
You don't want me on a
Yeah.
barbecue.
No.
Well, I lived in the city for many, many years. I had to make sure that I had a really good skillet steak. Like,
Yeah.
there wasn't the option for a grill. And like, we're talking about just making sure that everybody can access the ingredients and then be able to make them. There's no fancy appliances needed, which means also, and a lot of them are really quick.
For
So if you are
families,
traveling around and all you have is a kitchen and you only want 10 ingredients or less in 30 minutes, that's
Yeah.
not out of the ordinary, and you're still going to do a really good job of making it.
Well, I think also
know-
with what you guys are helping family farmers, both of your books support that. I mean, Carrie, you've got, it's the same thing. We have a lot of friends that are family farms, whether it's vegetables or cattle, all of it. And it to me, it is very difficult for them to get that stamp of organic, even if they're growing organic or biodynamic and, all of these different levels. And to me, it's a small farm that's really important. The big farms, these gigantic operations, you can be organic and have these gigantic operations. And I know from ranchers and tests of what happens with soil that you could have this monocrop kind of thing going, and it can be organic, and your soil is going to suck because you're doing the same thing to the soil over and over again. And the more we screw up our soil, excuse my language on it, I'm being really nice, but the more we have really hurt our soil, the worse it is for what we're ingesting in our food. And I think we've got a huge problem in this country with what our quality of food is. And the more we eat like the organics, like you're talking about, Carrie, and, even sourcing, produce that's a little bit out of the norm that we maybe wouldn't always do is important. And then you get here on the side of beef, you're helping the small family farmer. I think it's important that we support them so that our food and our land is better, because topsoil is important. It's crucial.
And you want food that's right next to you. You don't need to get food from 1,500 miles away or another country when it's right here.
Right.
There's a lot that goes into shipping, and it isn't the healthiest thing. There's all kinds of chemicals and freezing, and now it's thawed out, now it's refrozen.
Yeah.
You want to get next door local, like within 50 to 100 miles.
I think the food quality is so important. And like you're saying, the things that you can find, especially, I'm in Los Angeles, right? So we have an abundance of fruit trees. And I found out just the other day, like my neighbor's bushes, he has these giant red berries on them that I had never experienced before. And I'm like, what are those? Those they kind of look like a cross between a plum and a strawberry. And I looked them up and I was like, oh, these are edible and you can eat these. And so, they've been wasting for years, right? And where you can just find these food sources that are really everywhere. And the other thing I just wanted to bring up too is like eating. So for me, my book is divided into sections of breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacks, and desserts, so that we get in these mindsets of like, oh, well, let's just if we have healthy dinner, everything is going to be okay, right? But I think it's so important to bring in the nutrient density and the variety of fruits and vegetables into every meal, and not just think that, oh, if I have a salad at lunch, then I'm fine. Because it is about that repetition of just figuring out how I'm going to do this in a way that is going to give me enough of those nutrients. Because like you're saying, the soil is depleted. So, you get the magnesium alone that you're looking at in a head of romaine lettuce from what it was is down by like 70% compared to what it was 40, 50 years ago. So there's a
Yeah.
lot of things that we think we're doing that are helping us, but aren't helping us nearly as much as maybe they used to, or
Right.
how much we actually need to make up for those vitamins and minerals
Yeah.
we're not actually able to consume. And that's why, you know, animal protein is very, I think, very important, because it does provide a lot of those essential vitamins and minerals, like you said, Jessica, in a really easy to one ingredient, right?
One ingredient. Yeah. I mean, I'm not out for, I definitely do use processed foods in some of my cooking. I definitely use some shortcuts here and there, but I do try to minimize it. And again, it comes back to that balance. And I do buy stuff from the big grocery stores, but I try to source locally too. And I'm probably going over into your realm, but sourced foods start to lose nutrients the moment that they're harvested. So the least amount of time and flavor. So the least amount of time it takes them to get from the farmer to you and to your plate, you're going to have so much more quality and flavor than you would if you got something that had been on a truck for a long time.
Exactly.
And that overall just gives you, you know, good ingredients, garner better meals, and better nutrition. So whenever you can do local, and there are protein farmers throughout the entire country. It's pretty easy to get proteins locally because they can be farmed in so many different places.
You know, with us going across the country and actually living in these communities, we get the best of both worlds. We get to go on the chef's restaurant side and do the tourism side, and then actually live in a community. And you know, and Linda, I know with what you do with boating and everything too, you have that, you're going to grocery stores. And you know, I feel like writing a gazillion books on this is how trash is done across the country. This is how food is. The grocery stores, and I think it comes from the consumers who are educating themselves and learning, going, hey, I want local produce. I want local meats. I see just about everywhere we're going, some places we still have absolute food deserts. You can go to a grocery store and, I mean, if you can get a decent head of lettuce, you're lucky. There are still those areas, but I'm seeing
Iceberg
they
lettuce.
changed. Yeah, iceberg. That's right. That we won't leave the romaine alone. I am seeing over and over that the grocery stores are getting better about even just having a section saying local and or organic. Like it's getting better than here was the one tiny organic shelf with everything going bad because people couldn't afford it and didn't know what it was. You know, I think it's getting better across this country with that, where you can get local. And I'll buy local before organic a lot of times.
But you know, and farmers markets, there's a lot of farmers markets. Those are always fun to go to. It's local.
Going back to the organic stamp too, some of that local stuff is organic. They just could not afford that stamp.
Exactly.
Exactly.
And
I
then
live
when
out
you
in
go
the
to a farmer's
country,
market,
so
you
everything
talk to 'em.
is. They just it's a farm stand, and it's mostly organic. They just don't have the stamp.
But you talk to the farmers. That's the thing about going to farmers markets. If you can take your kids there and get everybody educated on that, you know, and you can talk to the farmer or look him up and see, like, if you can get a CSA, a delivery. And there's a lot of options for this. I do want to touch on this for our audience to know that we do have a recipe from Carrie and one from Jessica. And I want to know, I think this might actually go together pretty well. So one is Carrie's is beet soup with cashew cream, and Jessica's is a peanut beef pad thai, or is it pod thai? I'm not sure how to pronounce that correctly. Pad thai. Okay. Would you say, Carrie, would you serve those in the same meal or no?
You can eat anything together that you want to. Like, I'm not, I'm not a person who's like, you can't mix that. I'm like, sure. I think served as different courses, they could be fun together. I think the Thai is going to be nice and bright with the lemon and maybe, I don't know if you're using fish sauce in there or not, but it's like, those are some wonderful flavors that are nice and bright. And the beets are going to be, can be a complement where they're much earthier and, creamy. That could be like your indulgence.
Cool. Diva Linda, have you had the beet soup?
I've not had the beet soup. yet, but one of my friends had it and they said it was to die for. To die
Ah.
for. The pad thai was to die for. It was wonderful. It was fabulous.
Oh,
Yeah.
cool.
Cool.
This is cool.
Yeah.
So before we all go, ladies, it's been awesome chatting with you all, but I want to know from each of you, including Diva Linda. Okay.
Oh,
Look at your books.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh. Dinner party time. Come on, we're going to eat, drink, and be merry. If you're going to have someone over for dinner, alive or passed on, or it could be for appetizer, it could be breakfast, because Carrie's got breakfast and lunch. You're going to make a meal from your book. Who would you invite and what would you make them? And Linda, who's coming on your boat? She's got the wine.
I'll tell you, we have such a variety of people here. I think, since I made the pad thai one, I just love it. I would serve it to everybody and just not tell them it was healthy. And I have friends who at this age can have very restrictive diets, and it's good enough for everybody, I think. So we have especially a PhD couple who has very strong roots in the Seattle community, and they appreciate colorful, wonderful foods. And either one of these books has I'd like to try the beet soup on them, because I bet they would really like that, and the pad thai, because I really like that. So that's what I
Okay.
would do.
With wine.
Yes.
With appropriate wines for each course. Yes. Which
Ooh, I like
which our next one of the things coming up is Iris Vineyards. I don't know if any of you have tried those wines. They are really exceptional. Really, they're from Oregon and they are exceptional. So they have a wine that would go with both of those.
Awesome.
Cool.
Awesome. So Jessica, who are you having over for a meal?
I'm a big music person, specifically 80s music, but
Right on.
also just kind of rock and roll. And I was just telling my husband the other day that the one person that I was really sad we never got to see in concert was Tom Petty. And I've been listening to a lot of his music. I know that's probably not what you were thinking, like some culinary person, but
No,
I
Tom
would.
Petty's cool, man.
It's like
Love Tom
totally on my
Petty.
list right now.
Yeah.
And you know what? Pad Thai is my go-to too. It's colorful, but I can make the sauce separate from everything else. It uses a ton of vegetables. I kind of use up everything in my vegetable crisper when I make it, because there isn't a wrong thing to throw in there. But if people have mixed protein lifestyles, like some people don't eat beef, and that's fine. I'm not going to judge anybody for not eating beef, but I can make it with shrimp. I can make it with chicken. I can make it with tofu, and I can make it just veggie. So when and one of our best friends is celiac. So for me, having those rice noodles in there, it's a naturally gluten-free meal that I don't have to scream is gluten-free to those who hear gluten-free and are like, ew, it's healthy. But I can also make it a variety of ways, and I still get to indulge in having the party. I don't want to be in the kitchen the entire time I'm serving people and having them over for
Right.
dinner.
If
I
Tom
want to be
Petty's
drinking
over-
wine and talking. I don't want to be in the
Yeah.
kitchen making like a 5-course
Exactly.
meal that takes forever. So I want something that I can, or maybe the braised brisket, because that I can throw in the oven hours earlier and then just pop out again. But I want something that's quick and easy so I can enjoy my party too.
Awesome.
And my cooking gets a little sloppier the more I drink. So it's got to be
wow.
mostly done
That's
before
a
I start.
given.
Tom
That's-
Petty will be fine with that.
Yeah.
And listen,
How
you've got to
about-
go to Gainesville, Florida. He used to live out there. We stayed at a bed and breakfast, Magnolia Plantation, B&B, historical. This it is a Victorian, but it had this extra room that was hidden for way back when, so the taxman couldn't tax them on this extra room. And so this was where all these LSD experiments happened. But Tom Petty lived around the corner, and everybody knew each other. And you go around in Gainesville, Florida, you'll see murals of Tom Petty. And it's just, I mean, we had, and then I'm going to the lyrics, but one of the lyrics, she jumped out of a window, and it was at the university there. So we had to drive by to see where this
she
girl
jumped
did.
out the
I mean,
window.
that's really not nice, but it's cool. And they've got alligators there. So it's really awesome.
I've been once. It was in college though, and I went to a game.
That's where the
there.
girl jumped out of the
In
window.
the,
She went to the room.
That was like in the 90s, which totally dates me. But yeah, I wasn't seeing much of the cultural items while I was there.
So
No,
how about a cookbook, recipe book, where you list, I would serve this to Tom Petty, or I would serve this to whomever, actors,
Oh.
actresses, artists, wouldn't it
It'd be a lot of
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah,
That would be
That'd
a
be
lot
a
of
fun
fun.
one.
yeah.
Tom Petty would have to have a cigarette afterwards.
Probably. If it was Tom
Uh-oh.
Petty, I might actually let him smoke in my house. That would be like the only exception. But
Yeah,
On the
he's allowed.
porch.
He's allowed.
Outside
Yeah,
on
on the
the
porch. Yeah, on the
On the
porch.
good
Carrie,
ventilation.
who are you having over for a meal?
My gosh, I would be completely down with Tom Petty. For my first
Yeah.
concert ever was a Tom Petty concert.
No
She
way.
got to see him. I was
Probably
so mad.
dating myself when I say that.
I've
as
never
well.
got to see him either. I'm bummed. Yeah,
Yeah.
that is awesome though. So are you having him over for dinner? What? Is this a
Yeah,
Tom
he
Petty night?
can live at my house. Like,
Yeah. Oh, he's popular.
Dude, seriously, like he's cool though. And then wait a minute, can we invite the whole Traveling Wilburys crew over then?
oh yes.
Oh,
yes.
Oh, wouldn't that be
So-
nice?
So if I
Yeah.
was having that gang, I actually used to feed musicians. Like I would have a house full of musicians, people in my basement, like just
Oh, wow.
eating.
Well, that's
But-
interesting.
But you know what I would make? I would make just my basic chicken soup. My chicken noodle soup out of that book. I feel like you
Oh.
can make like a giant stock pot of that, have it on the stove, and just have that ladle there. Just a really casual time, and you've got this chicken soup, and
It makes everyone feel better, like no matter what.
Chicken
Right.
soup for the people in the basement.
Listen, listen.
yeah.
I've
But
got a
just-
connection back to Tom Petty and the Traveling Wilburys. So
Uh-oh.
Roy Orbison,
Yeah.
which to me has got one of the best voices on the
Mm.
planet. I'm like a huge, crazy, weird Roy Orbison fan, which means I like Dennis Hopper too. But anyway, so Roy Orbison. So there's a couple, Alice Lease and her husband Rob Lease. She's a painter and she goes to all these national parks and does these artist residencies. And amazing painter out of Texas, West Texas, outside a town called Wink, which turns out, and we're trying to get to see them because they're old-fashioned ranchers where they don't even have ATVs when they're on horseback rounding up their cattle, and they have guinea fowl to get rid of the rattlesnakes. I mean, this is like old
That's
school
cool.
ranching, and they're just an awesome couple, and we're still trying to get out to see them. But they're outside of Wink, Texas, and that's where Roy Orbison's from, and they have a Roy Orbison museum, and I want to go to the Roy Orbison, his house. I mean, come on, talk
cool.
about smoking though. My God.
Mm.
All right. Well, that's a good roundup of, music and food. And now I'm going to go listen to some Tom Petty. So thank you
Yeah,
guys
boy.
for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Yes,
Thank you.
thank you. It's been fun.
Diva Linda, good job as always, bringing awesome people. So everyone, I'm going to give Carrie's book title, Carrie Bonfitto. It's Fitto. Go get it. It is What to Cook, Why to Eat It. And you can go to twoheartsnutrition.com. Great website to go to. Jessica Formicola, you guys really do have the Italian last names. It's awesome. Savoryexperiments.com is her website. And her recipe book is Beef It Up. 50 mouthwatering recipes for ground beef, steaks, stews, roasts, ribs, and more. And of course, follow Diva Linda Kissam on allingoodtaste.info. We're going to have the recipes up on blendradioandtv.com, so check that out. And of course, keep up with us at bigblendradio.com, where Diva Linda joins us every first Saturday. And next Saturday after this is all about wine. So
Cool.
stay tuned. Thank you all for joining us. You take care.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
guys.
Thank
Bye-bye.